Good afternoon. Today is the 7th of September and we are in sunny Cobham in Surrey. This is a very rare sight these days. It's a 1995 Proton 1.5 MPI SL. The way that you kind of say the trim levels and the engine capacities of this car and the MPI just depends on how you feel, because when these cars are registered by dealers in the late 80s, early 90s, sometimes they just call it a Proton SL, and it's very rare you'll actually see the name properly in the right order. But these were known as the Saga in Malaysia, where they were made. The design dates from an early 80s Mitsubishi, the Lancer Fiore, I believe, which I think we just got as the Lancer over here in this country. These cars are now extremely rare in Britain, and I used to have one. I used to have a 1993 1.3 MPI GLS Saloon. This is an SL. This is a bit nicer than the one that I had. It's got a few more little bits like mirrors that actually adjust with a lever and not just poking your finger on the glass. My glass fell out the first time I tried to adjust the position, so I had to use some duct tape to put it on. When I sold my car in 2017 that I'd acquired for £200, it actually was the only first generation Proton for sale in the country on Auto Trader. So very pleased to be offered this opportunity by Jude, who currently owns his car and has sold it to a friend of his up in North East England. I would go for a little drive in it today, but it's currently not taxed, so what we're going to have to do is come and actually do a full review of this car, probably when he's actually taken delivery of it, and you know, it's taxed and everything. But it is got a current MOT and everything on it, which is brilliant. And I've just sat in it and sort of felt the clutch and everything, and it brought back a lot of memories. If you look in the back, actually the rear space isn't brilliant. I've set the driving position to the only position I can actually drive the car in, and there's no seat height adjustment in this particular model. There are probably on some of the higher trims. The highest one was called VSE and it had electric windows. This doesn't. But you know, you can't adjust it. If you're modestly tall, your head will be touching the sunroof, which this car has, and it's been sealed up. A lot of these do have to get sealed up because they do leak as the cars get older. The saloons are also very bad for things like water leaks. This one seems okay. This is the Aeroback, which is the hatchback variant, and these were more expensive when the car was new, although they have less space, which you know, make your mind up as to what happens with that. One thing you immediately recognise in these is how light the doors are. They're extremely light. You just don't want to have any kind of accident in one of these, because it's not going to go very well for you. So don't crash and you'll be fine. Let's take a seat in here. Classic early 80s Japanese dashboard. The British cars actually had a different dashboard from the Malaysian ones, particularly with the Iswara facelift, or the MPI facelift in 1992. And this is very similar to the one that would have come in the Lancer over here. You can see the position of the wiper controls is there, and the flimsiest little thing to sort of change the speed of the rear wiper in this car. So open up the glove box. It's pretty standard kind of size. Just look at these kind of little details on here, which now looks so old-fashioned. I'd say even this is sort of 70s looking thing. Hard plastic, of course, and if I just shut the door, you'll see, first of all, how small the door pockets are, and secondly, just all these kind of little flimsy, brittle bits of plastic, which I know looks like it's going to fall off at any time, but bear in mind this car is 25 years old and has done 92,000 miles and it hasn't fallen off yet, so it's pretty good. The clock is working just fine. There are the sort of vintage Japanese style heated ventilation controls. I always used to find those an absolute stretch in my car. Another thing is as well, the radio is right down there, and if there's also a space you could put a radio kind of higher up on the dash, but Mitsubishi, who really designed this car, in their infinite wisdom, decided to put a radio down there. This is the original Blaupunkt unit. It's also what I had in mine. And what's very funny about this car is that as they age, you cannot tell what's the hazard switch and what's the reheated window control. That's the reheated window, and that is the hazard switch, which doesn't actually light up on the down there at all. It just lights up on the instrument panel. It's very strange. Got a cigarette lighter is here, which is obviously luxury. There's a little tray underneath the glove box too. I believe the chap who owned this before Jude was about 92 years old, and so we might find a few bits and pieces. The car I had as well was owned by an older couple that had done 44,000 miles from new and had been in the same family since 1993. Steering wheel's had a bit of action. It's probably that thing's been off at some stage, so there's a little gap in it, and that should say Proton at the bottom of there, I think, but it doesn't. Notice the older style Proton logo in this car. Fabric is interesting. It's sort of like a tweed style fabric. It's very hard wearing indeed. The seats are reasonably comfortable. No adjustable height seat belts or anything, and some nice kind of furry sun visor bits, which remind me very much of the ones in a Rover R8. Of course, I've had a couple of those myself. It's just a fascinating car. This I love them. You just don't see these things anymore, and they once were the sort of preserve of you know, every kind of retiree's car park everywhere, and you know, people used to look after them. Again, very sort of flimsy style locking knobs. If you want to lock the door, by the way, you actually have to pull the handle at the same time. Let me just demonstrate if you don't. So if I do that, I shut the door, it just comes straight up. So you have to make sure that you do that properly. So no central locking on this car. It's much too basic for that. You've got to remember to put your locking knob down. What I used to do in mine, the unleaded will load you sticker was actually just in front of the locking knob here, but on the other side. So the driver's door was a pain because the locks didn't work properly. And so what I used to do, because I didn't think anybody was going to steal it, and I had a crook lock on it anyway, used to leave the driver's door locked by locking it from the inside, and then just leave the rear door unlocked. And it used to work quite well. Just get in through the rear door. So body colour mirrors being an SL, we do have two of the original wheel trims on the car at the back here. Clearly, you know, sort of champagne type colour is the order of the day. I think this is the original dealer sticker, not too far from here, West Park Automobiles. Believe they were sort of near Woking. I think these are the original dealer plates as well, which is absolutely brilliant. We've got an aftermarket parking sensor solution here, which you know, you have to connect up and use some batteries for, but you know, I don't quite need those. I'm not in that category quite yet in my life, so we can have to use a different key to open the boot. I don't know what's happened to this car. What happens a lot with these Protons is the locks go funny, and certainly that happened to the saloon one I had. But if we do that, we should be able to use the handle to lift up. It's a bit stiff. And there we go, split folding rear seats in this car. And unlike on a saloon, if we lift up the boot carpet, we don't find it full of water. It was a pretty normal thing actually for these Protons to have lots of water in the boot if they were a saloon. And also, down the side of here was a lot more recessed, and you could easily lose things in there. This one, though, being the Aeroback, it's not so much of a problem. There's the aftermarket parking sensor solution kit from JML. Yes, so many memories for me to see one of these, and they are just exceptionally rare in this country. I know a lot of my viewers in Malaysia. I've had a few after the Proton Savvy review. I did no budget reviews, and think somebody wanted to see one of these, and just so happened that I was actually in the area today, so I was able to come and see Jude, and and let's have a look. Really, for one of these, it's actually in pretty good condition. The one I had much more sort of blistering on the side than that. I repainted actually the bonnet, which I think has also been repainted on this car, because it went all horrible and scabby and sort of rusty on there. The roof as well had, lacquer peel. It's very common as well to have to seal up your sunroof like this. It's nothing at all unusual. Right, I think it's time to take a look under the bonnet, and we'll have a look at the Magma 12 valve engine. There we are. Magma engine, or Mitsubishi Orion engine. It's sort of distantly related to the Sirius engine, which the most famous version of that is called the 4G63. That was in the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution 1 to 9, I believe. This is a 1.5 litre engine developing 85 horsepower. But the earlier versions of this only had, I think, 8 valves. This has got 12 valves. They changed over in 1991, so there was a time when this car was called, I think, the 12 valve in Britain, 91-92, and then just renamed the MPI, or multi-valve or something, in 92. But yes, the mega valve it was called in Malaysia. Maybe I see there's a little Malaysian sticker there in Malay and in English. A little bit of a wheat from the, presumably it's a cam cover gasket or something in this. I've actually changed the oil filters and the air filter in one of these myself. It was £3. It was one of the easiest air filters to do. Just unclip those, take one out and put the other one in. Absolutely fantastic. It's an ancient style dipstick. Power steering in this car, although the base models didn't have power steering of this. Very, very, very easy to work on. I'm sure if you wanted to put a bigger engine in this or something, then you could. 1.3 was 77 horsepower at this time, and the engine was in production for a long time. The first generation Proton was actually produced until 2008. The last version was called the LMST and had a big sort of body kit on it and a number of changes inside. Right, let's have a look inside. So there's the instrument panel. There's a door open warning light there. We don't actually have any adjustment for the illumination for the instruments, which is one thing I was a bit disturbed about when I first turned the lights on in the one I had. Sorry about the fingers on there, turned the lights on like that and I couldn't actually see, but this one it's a lot more obvious for some reason that the lights are on the instrument panel. So again, very sort of early 80s Japanese style. Lights are on there, indicators on this side because that is what the Japanese and the Malays used to like back in the day. The fog light switch is right down here. Presumably if you had a really high spec one you'd have another switch for that, and I don't know what that one is, who knows. I'm not sure where the air conditioning switch would be on there. Probably that. Most cars in Malaysia have air conditioning. You understand it's a very hot place. I have been there a couple of times. In 2006 and 7 I spent about a month over there. It's a beautiful country. 5-speed manual gearbox in this car, absolutely joyous to use. Comparison with a lot of cars of the sort of mid-80s, although Proton was first launched in this country in 89 and sadly it's no longer imported. I think they stopped in 2012. With this particular car, the MPI or the 1.5, 1.3 import stopped in I think 1996. So there we are, this fantastic 1995 Proton 1.5 MPI SL. I suppose at some point we'll be doing a full review on this car. I've asked Chris already, the new owner, who's going to be picking this car up I think in a couple of days, although by the time you see this video that will have already happened. So subscribe to the channel, I suppose, for when that actually happens, and other kind of interesting older car reviews on the No Budget Review series. Don't forget to like this video and leave a comment below. Thank you once again to Jude for the opportunity to film this today. And don't forget to visit my Facebook page, facebook.com/Lloyd Vehicle Consulting. and also my Instagram page, instagram.com/Lloyd_vehicle_consulting. Thank you.